Hello and welcome back to top10list.org, where you get a world of knowledge in 10 simple points. Today's episode is going to be about top 10 astonishing coincidences in history. This is going to be an interesting episode. Let's dive in at number 10 with being struck by lightning 7 times. Given the fact that the odds of being struck by lightning are about 500,000 to 1, the same person being struck more than once is highly unlikely, or at least so it should seem. However, that is not the case of Roy Sullivan, a man who was hit by lightning 7 times and surprisingly survived. Sullivan's astonishing encounters with thunder lasted for 35 years, the last beam striking him in 1977 while he was fishing. The last lightning bolt was also the most damaging, as afterwards he required hospitalization for chest and stomach burns. Number 9. The blood-curdling deaths of 2 Finnish brothers. Everyone heard stories about strong connections of identical twins whom often have the same food preferences, career choices, behaviors, so on and so forth. However, the story of 2 Finnish brothers who shared a peculiar death seems like a scene taken out of a Hollywood movie. To summarize, the brothers were killed on the same day after being involved in a car accident. Mysteriously, the brothers were killed on the same portion of the road, only 1 mile apart. The suicide version in this case was dismissed, since the second brother had not heard about his sibling's death at the moment of the crash. Number 8 is Booth's son rescued Lincoln's son. Many conspiracy theorists strongly believe President Lincoln had quite a mysterious life, yet he was not the only puzzling member of the family. An intriguing episode has his son in the center of attention. Robert Todd actually fell beneath the slow-moving carriage of a departed train only to be rescued by no other than John Wilkes Booth, the son of President Lincoln's murderer. Number 7. The Titanic's tragic end was foretold. 14 years before the one-way trip of the Titanic, American author Morgan Robertson published an intriguing novel depicting the departure of a British luxury vessel that was to meet its doom in the cold waters of the Atlantic Ocean. What seems like a simple coincidence at first becomes stranger and stranger as you read the details. In both situations, 2,500 people lost their lives due to the insufficient number of lifeboats. Both vessels were 800 feet long and were traveling at April at 25 knots when they hit an iceberg. Number 6. Lee Harvey Oswald's employment file. While there may be many angry people who would like to kill the president regardless of the regime, very few of them will actually have the means to go through with their plans, not to mention that the odds of also being given the opportunity are pretty much fairly low. What makes Lee Harvey Oswald's case so intriguing resides in the fact that he was hired by the Texas School Book Depository on the 16th of October. So basically, Oswald was working in a facility located 50 feet away from JFK's motorcade 3 weeks before the assassination. Number 5. The crossword puzzle and the invasion of Normandy. 2 weeks before the World War II infamous D-Day, London's Daily Telegraph published a crossword puzzle containing the names of the beaches where the Allied forces would land, Omaha and Utah, along with the other classified information accessible only to General Eisenhower's staff. While initially everyone considered the author of the puzzle a Nazi spy, it turned out that all words were randomly chosen. It is quite fascinating considering that the chances for such a thing to happen are less than 1 in a billion. Number 4. Presidents Jefferson and Adams mysteriously passing away. Presidents Jefferson and Adams occupy a special place in American history, not only as great leaders who shared their love for the country, but also as founding fathers who were instrumental for the implementation of the Declaration of Independence. The mystery surrounding them resides in their weirdly synchronized death days, which were precisely 50 years after the document was ratified on the 4th of July in 1826. Number 3. John Lennon's assassination. Perhaps one of the most loved artists in the 10th century was shot and killed by a schizophrenic night security guard named Mark Chapman in 1980. A few years after his death, when a TV station was playing a biographic movie about John Lennon, the most peculiar thing was revealed. The actor playing Lennon was also named Mark Chapman. Talk about the you gotta be kidding me coincidences. Number 2. Archduke Franz Ferdinand's death. As far as most people are concerned, World War I started due to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Bosnian peasant, though it be part of a band of conspirators. However, little is known about the fact that the assassin, Gavril Princip, gave up his plans to murder the Archduke after a failed bombing attack. Well, apparently, during the Archduke's visit, Princip was drowning his disappointment at a local cafe when Franz Ferdinand's car stopped 20 feet away from him. Coincident or not, the Archduke's driver did not only take a bad turn that day, but also managed to kill the engine when he was backing up. Number 1, the Kennedy-Lincoln quirk. I've never heard of this one, so this is going to be interesting. In spite of the fact that Lincoln-Kennedy similarities are old news, it is still one of the most unusual coincidences in history. For starters, both presidents were elected at precisely 100 years apart, and each was the successor of a president named Johnson, also born 100 years apart. Speaking of presidents, while Lincoln was assassinated in Ford's Theater, JFK was shot while riding in a Ford Lincoln. The things become even more awkward when you think that Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, whereas JFK had a secretary named Evelyn Lincoln. Very strange indeed. Well, that concludes our list for Top 10 Astonishing Coincidences in History. If you enjoyed this edition of Top 10 List, don't forget to click that subscribe button and join us again for another episode of Top 10.